Keswick and Windermere have a bit of a thing going on for who's the top dog in the Lake District when it comes to visitors. Now they're a very similar sized town, although Windermere and Bowness combined are slightly bigger. Keswick is a good place to visit if you want to have a base for touring the whole of the Lake District. A lot of places are easier to get to from here than they are from Windermere. Now what Keswick is, it's undoubtedly England's finest mountain town, if not the country's finest mountain town, because it's surrounded by them. Now Keswick over the years has enjoyed periods of boom and bust. The first real boom time came in the 1500s, and graphite was discovered in the Borrowdale Valley. That's the way we're going to be heading now. Now graphite is a carbon-like substance that's originated from primeval forests that were laid down millions of years ago and then covered in ash. Now the legend, and I'm sure this is just a legend, goes that a tree blew down and some shepherds were looking at this tree and rummaging around in the exposed roots, and they discovered this carbon-like substance, and they realized it was good for marking the sheep's fleece. And they discovered the first lead pencil, because as you know, graphite, this is the story, graphite is one of the main components of pencils, and Keswick likes to think of itself as the home of lead pencils, and it's built quite a sort of thriving industry on the back of it. You may be familiar with Cumberland pencils or the Derwent brand of pencils. Yeah, when you come back for lunch, you may see them in the shops, and they are very good quality. Some of our finest animators use Cumberland pencils, Keswick pencils. The graphite was also used for other things. It was used in cast iron, mainly in foundries that were making cannonballs, where a high degree of accuracy was called for. Now there's a lot of copper mining being done in Keswick too. That started in the 1560s. Nowadays Keswick is largely given over to visitors. A big part of the old town was demolished in order to create two huge car parks. That's because most people visiting Keswick these days have to come by car, because the railway that was here was taken away in the sort of very early 1960s. Now we've just come down into the Borrowdale Valley. I'm not sure how much of the Borrowdale Valley we're going to get to cover. It'll all depend upon how the time plays out. Now Borrowdale Valley is one of the most beautiful parts of the Lake District, and if people say to me, if we could only pick one part of the lakes, where would you go? Well, I would choose this place, because really it's like a microcosm of the whole of the Lake District. You have a little bit of everything. You've got Derwent Water that you'll see very shortly out to your right. That's Borrowdale's lake. You've got all the natural woodland. I've said to you several times that the Lake District would have been covered with trees after the Ice Age ended, and they would have the tree line probably would have been about 2,000 feet. You've got the agriculture, the Herdwick sheep, the stone walls. You've got and some of the finest mountain scenery at the south end of the valley. Now you can really divide Borrowdale, the valley, up into three parts. You've got the Keswick end where we are now, where you'll get Derwent Water. Then the middle part of the valley, that reduces right down in width to what is known locally as the Jaws of Borrowdale. Now in the middle of the Jaws of Borrowdale is a conical hill that's part of an extinct volcano, and that's where Borrowdale gets its name from, Borgodal, Valley of the Fort. There was an Iron Age hill fort on the top of Castle Crag. And then you've got the other end of the valley where some of the best mountain scenery is. So we're going to go around the other side of Derwent Water now, the western side, as it were. And this is the bridge over the River Derwent that we're going now. It's quite interesting because it's a double humpback one. Now Grange, that's the name of the little hamlet we're coming to. That's the name for an outlying estate. After the Norman Conquest in 1066, when the French basically came over and gave us a good hiding and took over, a lot of the land around here ended up under the control of the monasteries, and that's how Grange was initially developed. It would have been like a huge sheep farm for the monks. Now there was another quite interesting character lived here, a writer. I don't know whether any of you will have heard of him or not. His name was Sir Hugh Walpole. He was actually a New Zealander by birth, and he wrote some books, and they were all set around here, and they were called the Herries Chronicles. But he wrote other things. There was a film made, David Copperfield, the Charles Dickens novel, and Sir Hugh Walpole wrote the score or the scenario for that film in America. This is in the 1930s. From the royalties, or from the money he got, he bought this house here called Copperfield. Now, the reason he bought it, he was quite an interesting character with Hugh Walpole. I don't know whether he was gay or whether he was bisexual, but he used to have lots of men would come here, and they would stay at Copperfield, and Hugh Walpole lived higher up at his own house called Brackenburn. Now, there's a local guy called Alan Mounsey who's written a book about lots of characters who lived in Borrowdale during the 30s, 40s and 50s. And he described Hugh Walpole as, you could see there was something really special about him, because his books were selling very well, he was making lots of money, and he was writing these scenarios for these films. But yeah, and with the Herries Chronicles, they're quite hard reading. They're not easy going. You know, they're sort of quite a tough read. But and it charted about 3 generations of this family that lived in the Borrowdale Valley. And to sort of add authenticity to his books, he used a lot of local names, a lot of local surnames. This is where he used to live there, Walpole. See, it's amazing how writers go in and out of fashion. Obviously in the 1930s, late 30s, he was quite the thing. Now, I told you a little bit about the graphite that was discovered in Borrowdale in the 1500s. A little bit after the graphite, they started mining copper in the hills over to the left. This was when Elizabeth I was on the throne, and the copper was in big demand. Now the best miners in Europe were the Germans. So there was a company formed called the Company of Mines Royal, 1564. And the Germans came over from a town called Augsburg, and they were here for a long time, probably for about 100 years, because they were very much the leading lights in the mining. They knew how to find the mineral ores and how to get them out. Now the German miners became quite wealthy. Certainly they had a lot more money than the local people, and they were treated with a degree of suspicion. First of all, because they were outsiders, there wouldn't be that many people who weren't local coming into the area at that particular time. And so the fact that they were strangers, they had this money. Also, they were going back to Germany occasionally, and they were bringing all sorts of exotic goods that would not be available in Keswick. Now, because of that, they were going with a lot of our girls, and that didn't really do much to improve relations with the locals and the German mine workers. Now, as we a little bit further on the road, you get some really good views over Derwentwater, and you can see there are islands. Initially, the Germans had to live on the islands because they were actually safer. They couldn't really sleep safely in their beds at night, except if they were on the islands that afforded them a little more security.